I just can't stop looking at it. It's so beautiful. What's cracking, everybody, and welcome back to Kraken R&R, where the Seattle Kraken, the first place in the Pacific Division, Seattle Kraken beat the New Jersey Devils 4-3 in overtime. And with the win, as well as a loss by both LA and Vegas on the same night, the Kraken jumped to first place in the Pacific Division for the first time in franchise history. I mean, technically they have the same amount of points as Vegas, but they've got one game in hand, which means by points percentage, they have the tiebreaker, and first place is all theirs. Now, it is worth mentioning that if we were talking this time last season about the Kraken beating the Devils in overtime, well, I mean, we still would have been excited about the Kraken winning, but it would have been a little bit bittersweet, as the two teams were racing to see who could get the better odds at the first overall pick. And actually, funnily enough, the Kraken did beat the Devils 4-3 in the shutout last season at home towards the end of the season, so it pretty much did happen. Though, at the time of that game last year, afterwards we were more excited about Matty Beniers' first NHL goal than worrying, at least for one night, where the Kraken were going to pick in the first round. And of course, in the end, as we know, the Devils ended up jumping the Kraken to pick second, while Seattle picked fourth. Of course, the Devils and the other two teams passed on Shane Wright, so the Kraken still got the guy they probably would have taken first overall. But that's all history, and at this point this season, both of these teams have put that well in the past, as both of them are near the top of the league. The Kraken, now first place in the Pacific, while the Devils are right around first in their division as well, and coming into this game, were the best team on the road in the entire NHL. Meanwhile, for the Kraken, it was April 29th of last year, the 81st game of their inaugural season, that the Kraken picked up their 27th and what would be final win of that season against the San Jose Sharks in a 3-0 shutout. And now, here we are, January 19th of the following year, a full 3 months and 10 days before the one-year anniversary of that final win in the inaugural season, and the Kraken pick up win 27, equaling their win total from last year, still with almost half a season to play. And like the Devils, the Kraken have done a lot of that improving from last season to this season on the road, where, in fact, coming into this game, only the Devils were ahead of the Kraken in road points this season. So, of course, the Kraken at home, where things have been alright, but nowhere near as good, they beat the best road team in the NHL, just like they beat the best home team and team overall on the road in the Boston Bruins to get this 27th win. As well as, again, first place in the Pacific Division, at least for a night or two, if not longer. Though, for that, we'll have to wait and see what the future holds. As we do get to the game, though, while the result was fantastic, and certainly what it means not only for the improvement from last year to this year, but also where it puts the Kraken in the standings, before the game we did get some more concerning news on the injury front, where the Kraken have been relatively healthy this season, but now things might be starting to catch up with them, as Schwartz misses his third game in a row and is now officially listed as day-to-day, and Schultz was also a scratch in this one, dealing with an undisclosed injury, which, like we said with Schwartz a couple games ago, hopefully doesn't turn into a longer-term thing, but at least for now, we're just gonna have to wait, well, day to day to see what the future holds with these two guys. The good news there is that the Kraken do only have one more game before a bit of a break, then a couple more games, and then the All-Star break, so things will be lightening up on the game front, and if this is an issue for either of them, hopefully that can give them a chance to get healthy and get back rested for the rest of the season following the All-Star game. Which, while we're on that subject, we did also find out today that Beniers will be the only Kraken going to the All-Star game, as the 3 fan-voted players, well, Dunn, Eberle, there weren't any other Kraken players. It's disappointing, but honestly not a terribly big surprise. At least we will get to see Beniers do whatever skill competition he does, and I guess in the game for people that watch that. Of course, as we know, Eberle last year did score in the game, so it's probably worth watching as a Kraken fan. As for this game that actually matters against the Devils, though, well, like we talked about after the last game in Edmonton, this is another pretty fast team that if you're sloppy or playing tired like the Kraken seem to against the Oilers, they're going to make you pay for it. So getting off to a hot start and showing some energy was something the Kraken were going to have to figure out a way to get back to after a couple of games where that wasn't necessarily the case in those back-to-back losses against Tampa Bay and the Oilers. And happily, the Kraken are able to do just that as they start this game on time, getting a number of shots off on goal early and even some pretty dangerous looks among them, with Tolvanen, Beniers, Donato, and Dunn a couple of times all getting very good looks, but also all getting shut down by Blackwood, who had a pretty good game in net for the Devils. But even though, thanks again to their goaltending, the Devils were able to keep the Kraken off of the board through this early onslaught and into the back half of the first period, thanks to some resiliency from this Kraken team. The Dave Hackstall word of the game there, resiliency from the Kraken. They don't allow the Devils to get momentum off of it, and eventually get momentum back themselves. And this time it pays off as Will Borgen from the Kraken defensive end gets a puck up along the boards through the neutral zone, past Wemberg and up to Donato, who skates it into the offensive end, looking for someone entering behind him to pass it to. Eventually, doesn't see anyone, so he fires off a shot, pulls out that rifle, and snipes it into the top corner to give the Kraken the first goal of the game, and the 9th of the season for number 9. It's an absolute beauty of a shot by Donato that again gets the Kraken that ever-important first goal of the game, something that they've only failed to get a point out of those games where they score first on 3 occasions so far this season. That having been said, one of those 3 games was the last one in Edmonton, but it's still a good start. Now, New Jersey would press back a little bit over the next couple of minutes and then into a second window of 2 minutes of 4-on-4 that we would get in this first period. The first of which actually came before the Donato goal on kind of a weird play along the boards where Soucy came up not being able to put a ton of weight on one of his knees, taking a knee from old Kraken player Nathan Bastian. He goes to the box, obviously, for kneeing Soucy, but Soucy also ends up going to the box for high-sticking Bastian in the process. So it ends up being 4-on-4, which, against a team that can really take advantage of space with the speed that they have, like the Devils, not really the place you want to be as the Kraken, but they survived that and would also survive this period of 4-on-4 thanks to a traded roughing call between Borgen and I honestly don't remember who the other player was. But it hardly matters because when all is said and done by the end of the first period, the Kraken still have that 1-0 lead. And then after, for the second time in a row, another strong start to a period for the Kraken here in the second, just a few minutes in, for the second time in a row, it's Ryan Donato, this time on a 2-on-1 break. McCann gets it to Donato, and Donato fires off the shot, once again pulling out that rifle and bang right into the back of the net as he gets the Kraken their second goal of the game. And at this point, it's Donato 2, Devils 0. And with the goal, since obviously the last one was his 9th of the season, it gives him his 10th and what I believe is a league-leading 7th player on the Kraken to reach 10 goals here just over halfway through the season. There's a couple of guys getting pretty close to that with 9, Vince Dunn being one of them. Next, almost immediately after Donato makes it 2-0, Everly gets set loose on kind of a partial break, but he's 1-on-1 with Blackwood. Blackwood is able to make the save, but it rebounds out to Burakovsky, and he also puts it right into Blackwood, as they are able to survive that, or the Devils are able to survive that, and not too much longer, get their first and what would turn out to be only power play of the game. Fortunately, the Kraken penalty kill, which has continued to play pretty well outside of that one game in Chicago, does shut this one down, only allowing, I think, 1 shot on goal, at least not very many opportunities, and keeping the Devils out of the offensive end for the vast majority of it. But as we get back to 5-on-5, eventually the Devils get the puck into the offensive end after a turnover in the neutral zone, and while there are 4 Kraken players shutting down the middle of the ice, like we've seen them do when they're playing well in the defensive end, right as they close in on the guy with the puck, who I think was Severson, he fires off a shot and it beats Jones somehow on the far side to break up the shutout and bring the Devils to within 1. Now, this is one that I don't know if Jones saw the shot coming. He might have been screened when the shot was taken, which would explain why his reaction was so slow, but this is one that you probably would like to see him save. To be fair, he was pretty good other than this one. The Kraken do press back to try to get this one back fairly quickly, aren't quite able to, and then get another good press at the end of the second period, but again come up empty there. So we get to the second intermission with the Kraken still holding the 1-goal lead at 2-1. And in the third, once again, they get off to a hot start and nearly get the 3-1 lead as Tanev and Geekie get on a 2-on-1 break, and Geekie gets a beautiful pass across to Tanev at the last second. The Tanev just has to tap into the net, but it goes past his stick and harmlessly into the corner. So the Kraken unfortunately miss out on that opportunity to extend the lead, which would also cost that stick its life, as Tanev, in frustration, knowing that he just missed an easy tap-in goal, smashes it over the boards as he goes off the ice. And then the frustration for the team as a whole would just continue, as the Kraken do end up getting a power play here not long after. But early on in that power play, a puck gets past Dunn as he tries to whack it out of the air along the boards, and then he isn't quick enough on the back check, so Haula gets on a free breakaway, and he scores on it shorthanded to tie the game at 2. The Kraken do press pretty hard in the offensive end throughout the rest of this power play, and Bjorkstrand gets absolutely robbed on a beautiful shot from the slot, but they do come up empty throughout the rest of this power play, so it's a -1 on the night for the Kraken power play, with this being their only opportunity. But just like the Devils after coming up empty on their power play, not long after this power play comes to an end for the Kraken in very unfortunate fashion, they're able to score, getting redemption and showing resiliency, there's that word again, as Gord makes a very nice play, diving to a puck along the boards behind the net and flinging it out to Donato as he gets collapsed on by 2 guys along the boards, both laying a hit on Gord. So he gets that pass up to Donato, and Donato gets it over to the other side where it's Brandon Tanev, and this time he makes no mistake, tapping it into the net, nothing Blackwood can do, and the Kraken regain the lead. And for Tanev, not only is it redemption for missing the tap-in just a little while earlier, but it's also his 9th on the season, as he, like Dunn and Donato did this game, closes in on double digits on the season, and also gets the Kraken that important lead, which they do try to extend over the next minute or two, but eventually kind of settle into just trying to play good defensive hockey and limit the offensive opportunities for the Devils, which works right up until the Devils decide to go empty net in the final couple minutes of the game. And while the Kraken are able to keep the puck away from the net for a little while, they aren't able to keep the puck out of the offensive end, get it clear, or even hit the empty net at the other end. And eventually, it's Hughes who throws the puck towards the net. It bounces off of Jones as he makes the save, but falls right out in front for Hischier, who's standing all alone in front of Jones, and he puts it right over Jones, roofing it into the back of the net and tying the game with just about a minute left. Oh, you couldn't just kill off one more minute? And look, with this goal, I get that there's an extra guy out on the ice, so somebody's not going to be perfectly covered, but you would think if there's 2 players you might want to have somebody right next to, it would probably be Hughes, who gets off the shot with some space around him, and Hischier, who again is standing right in front of the net uncontested. No, both of them are given space, and they make the Kraken pay for it, and inevitably send this game to overtime as neither team is able to score in the final minute. And then again, right away in overtime, it's that same combination as the Devils win the faceoff, which would break the tie, this being, I'm pretty sure, the final faceoff of the game. Either way, the Devils get the puck into the offensive zone, and it's that same combination that tied the game late, as Hughes fires a pass through 2 of the Kraken players to Hischier, who snuck past everybody and is on the back door, and he has a tap-in goal that goes off of the post and wide as the Kraken dodge a massive bullet that would have cost them a point in the standings. They get possession of the puck, and I don't think ever give it up, as eventually they get into the offensive end. Beniers flubs a shot, and Dunn is able to get to the puck first along the boards. He skates around with it for a bit, eventually getting it to Burakovsky, who comes on the ice off of a change. Burakovsky skates around with it a bit, eventually not finding anyone to pass it to that's open, so he fires off a shot, and it goes right through the 5-hole and into the back of the net to win the game for the Kraken as they pick up their 5th OT win, not only in a row, but of the season, getting them both points in the standings, and a relieving, redemptive, and again, resilient goal to win this game and avoid blowing it at the end, as they still end up with the win. For Burakovsky, it's his 13th of the season that wins the game for the Kraken, and getting the now apparently lone assist on this goal. It changed a few times, so it's Vince Dunn, as in the final second, he does continue his point streak, now to 9 games, still extending that franchise record. Originally, this was an unassisted goal, which honestly, I think it still would have been fair if they had said that, as Burakovsky did circle a couple of times in the offensive end before firing off this shot. But then a little while later, they decided to add 2 assists to this one for Vince Dunn, and also one for Matty Beniers. And that would have been a pretty generous assist to give Beniers. I said so at the time, as I'm pretty sure Beniers touched the puck last about 20 seconds before this goal goes in. I mean, he's still out on the ice, so I guess he gets a +1. But eventually, it looks like they decide to take that assist back away from Beniers, which is unfortunate for his points total, but probably fair considering how the play happens. Either way, Dunn continues his point streak, Burakovsky wins the game for the Kraken, and everyone goes home happy. Well, all the Kraken fans go home happy anyway. So for the Kraken, it's a much needed win as they snap a brutal 2-game losing streak to get back in the win column. Obviously important in the standings as they do by points percentage take the lead in the Pacific with 1 game in hand over Vegas with the same number of points now at 58. And on top of that, do it against the best road team in the NHL, handing the Devils their 4th loss, including both regulation and overtime, as the Devils now go to 18-2-2 on the road. The Kraken get their 11th win at home. But for me, it wasn't just important that the Kraken won this game, that certainly is the most important part, but also important how they won it. This wasn't just a game where they got a couple of bounces to go their way and managed to overcome some sloppy play in the defensive end. This is one where they, again, showed up on time, really showed that energy and speed, and especially transition through the neutral zone and shooting mentality in the offensive zone that got them that 8-game win streak and 7-game win streak on the road prior to these last 2 losses where they kind of got away from that a bit. In both of these last 2 losses, it did look like a team that's been playing a lot here in the month of January, as they were a little bit sluggish and certainly lazy with the puck through the neutral zone and even a bit in their defensive end. It's really starting to let up some of these high danger chances that they'd done so good up to this point and through that winning streak at limiting. Now in this game, they certainly weren't perfect there. There were still a lot of chances for the Devils in and around the net, but nowhere near as many and nowhere near as uncontested as we saw in these last 2 losses. So again, while the Devils did have their chances in this game, a couple of breakaways and some other net front chances, eventually 30 shots on goal, which is more than the average for the Kraken. Jones stops 27 of those, so at least a 900 save percentage for him and a couple of nice saves. They did do a fairly good job of keeping most of the rest of those to the outside, and also were controlling play for the most part throughout this game. There wasn't really an extended part of this game where the Devils were able to set up and really lay on shot after shot. They got set up a couple of times, but the Kraken were doing a pretty good job in the defensive end of recovering the puck and getting it back out the other way to get a couple chances of their own for every 1 chance the Devils got. I mean, in the end, it's 40 shots, I think, to 30 or 39 to 30, so it's not a huge gap, but there were a lot of shot opportunities for the Kraken that also just didn't get on net. And plus, on top of all of that, it's also nice to see them do this against another team like the Oilers that plays with a lot of speed and can really jump on any mistakes you do make. So the Kraken not getting exposed by the speed of this Devils team, which they've been able to expose just about every team they play on the road, certainly a pretty good sign, especially as the Kraken have another big test in a red-hot Avalanche team coming into town in a couple of days. But of course, before we can get to that game, we have to close out this one with the 3 Kraken stars of the game. The first star is obviously Ryan Donato, 2 goals and a primary assist, and a primary assist that was basically a goal off Tanev's stick. So a fantastic night for Donato. He also had a couple of chances to get the hat trick, the one very good one early on in the first before he scored his first goal, and another one that, granted, had he scored it, it would have been his hat trick goal, but it also would have been a highlight reel one for him to knock it out of the air into the back of the net. Either way, a fantastic night for him, easily the best Kraken player out on the ice. The second star, I'm going to give to Cale Fleury, as he comes in, obviously in a pinch, and probably the only rested Kraken, as it's been at least a week, if not longer, since he played last for Seattle. He comes in, plays pretty well, and gets his first NHL assist on the second Donato goal. So a good night for Fleury. And then the third star, I think you could go a number of ways here. Obviously, Burakovsky has the game winner, but I think I am going to give it to Martin Jones. He does let up the one kind of soft goal, the first one that they score, but other than that, he did make some pretty big saves that could have certainly gone the other way. As always, though, let me know what you think down in the comment section, who you would have as 3 stars, if there's any honorable mentions you would add. If I was going to add honorable mentions, I would probably add in Gord, who obviously had the fantastic play along the boards to get that up to Donato for the Tanev goal that ended up giving the Kraken back the lead, as well as I think Eberle certainly is deserving mention. He had a couple of very good scoring opportunities. The one that was shut down by Blackwood there in the, what was that, second period, and then had another one off of a post from a nice pass off Beniers. So the two of them, I would say maybe honorable mentions, but let me know what you thought. Obviously, a big win, and again, tying the franchise record for wins in a season, going back just to last season, but 27 wins, which is all they managed last season. They get here and take that first spot in the Pacific Division, which hopefully they can build on going forward. Until then, though, if you have made it to this point, thank you very much for watching. If you did like or enjoy this video, there are buttons for that kind of stuff down below to support the channel, so I'd appreciate you using them. As always, stay safe out there, be good to each other, God bless, and go Kraken!